Hey Al, this is Sabrina with Note to Self School. Today I want to go over Trump's 20-point Gaza so-called peace plan that was released sometime last week, I believe September 29th, and was supposed to already have started and phase one be in effect now. The plan was unveiled at the White House on September 29th with Prime Minister Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu, who was visiting the White House again after numerous times, I think like 5 or 6 times, that he has been here in the US, and has an arrest warrant out for him from the ICC, the International Criminal Court. But he's always a welcome guest here. So, going to read the direct 20-point text and go through it all with you and outline how it is a total scam. So, point number one, Gaza will be a de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Now, who is determining what this even means? A de-radicalized terror zone. I'll tell you who's determining it: Israel and the United States. And as we have seen over the past, 2.5 years, the past 2 years, and even all the way back to when Israel started their occupation, they're threatened by any Palestinians. They're threatened by children. They're threatened by old people. They think that any Gazan is a threat. As some have even said about babies, they're just future terrorists. Two, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. How kind. When they have been the ones bombing and starving them, the US weapons are the ones used, destroying their homes and blowing their family members to pieces. Three, if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare for hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Now, is this going to be an immediate end, which it says at first, or is the bombing and the attacks only going to be suspended, which is what it says later, and which is based on their track record, what I fully expect. Point four, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Now, this is a great political win for Bibi. Since this whole thing took place after October 7th, 2023, people in Israel have been furious with him for not doing more to bring the captured Israelis home. So he's going to finally earn back some political favor. Point five, once all hostages are released, there are 48 living and dead. They believe there's like 20 dead. Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners, 250, plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after 7th October 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. Children. They have children locked up in their prisons. And this is only since October 2023. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. They have so many bodies of Gazans that for every one of Israel's that's released, 15 deceased Gazans will be handed over. Point 6. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Who is a Hamas member? Right. According to what Israel has been saying, pretty much every Palestinian is a Hamas member, because every time they kill people, they say it was Hamas that they killed. So they have a lot of leeway to say who is a Hamas member and how they will be treated. Point 7. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the 19th of January 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, water, electricity, sewage, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and roads. Now, we saw how that went after the January so-called ceasefire agreement went into effect. Israel immediately started breaking the terms of agreement. They did not allow in stuff to remove rubble and temporary shelters and many other things because they said it could be used to build weapons. Point 8. Entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies and the Red Crescent, in addition to other unnamed international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the 19th January 2025 agreement. Now it says the institutions that are going to be providing the aid distribution will not be associated with either party. Presumably that means Israel and Hamas. So that does not rule out the US and things like the GHF, the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that has distributed aid at very limited places and use them as a place to round up people and open fire at them. Point 9. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians. Again, who and how they determine who is qualified is up to Israel and the US. Committee will also be made of international experts with oversight and supervision by, get this, a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by none other than President Donald J. Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair, because he's a real winner. This body will set the framework and handle the funding, so they get to handle all of the money for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time, undetermined, as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program as outlined in various proposals, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. Which leads us right into point 10. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts, aka real estate moguls, who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East that have really just uplifted and served the general population. Many thoughtful investment proposals and exciting development ideas have been crafted by well-meaning international groups and will be considered to synthesize the security and governance frameworks to attract and facilitate these investments that will create jobs, opportunity, and hope for future Gaza. This is Trump's Gaza Riviera that he has been talking about since January or February of this year. They are going to redevelop all of the land, take it so that they can make money, and set up hotels and tourist attractions and all that beautiful stuff. We're halfway there. Point 11, a special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. That will not include negotiating with the Palestinians. And guess again, who's going to be making money off of that? It's not going to be Gazans. 12, no one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. Unlike all of the refugees who legally have the right of return, but have not been allowed to return since 1948. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. So it's so kind. They get to stay and live under occupation, which will now be not only under Israel, but also under, more directly the US, even though like the US has been involved this whole time. Point 13, Hamas and other factions who are not named agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly, indirectly, or in any form. So they're taking out any Palestinian political leaders or form of government, so that, the democratically elected leaders and the Palestinians have really no power and no say in what takes place. All military terror and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. So that, I'm assuming, includes all of the hospitals, which they said have Hamas tunnels underneath them, and all of the schools that have been used to hide terrorists, and so on and so forth. Basically, everything in Gaza that they have claimed they destroyed because it is used by Hamas and for terror purposes. There will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, most likely from Israel and the US and friends, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. Because prior to this, Gazans have not wanted and have fought against a prosperous economy and peaceful coexistence. But thanks to Trump, they will now be on board with that. Point 14. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations, and that New Gaza, with new capitalized, kind of similar to the Gulf of America, just Trump like renaming things as he wills. The New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. Um, so the US is and Israel are gaining more and more power over neighboring countries and holding the whole region like under control. And through um, courting favor with their leaders who are also interested in the land and the money and such and such. Point 15. The United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force, ISF, to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF will train and provide support to vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. This force will be the long-term internal security solution. The ISF will work with Israel and Egypt to help secure border areas, along with newly trained Palestinian police forces. It is critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by the parties. Now, this sounds eerily similar to the Palestinian Authority, which was set up in 94 after the Oslo Accords, set up by the US, essentially. And they have worked with the Israeli occupation forces, serving their interests and to keep other Palestinians basically under control. And they have stood by as Israeli occupation forces have um, harassed and abused and killed Palestinians. Um, so, point 16. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israel Defense Forces, or more accurately, the Israeli occupation forces, will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between the IDF, ISF, the guarantors, and the United States. The exact specifications of these standards and milestones and timeframes is not in there anywhere. So again, this is going to go by who? Israel and the United States and what they say has been met and when those timeframes will be. And with the objective of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel, Egypt, or its citizens. How about how Israel remains a threat to the Palestinians, to Syria, to Lebanon, to Iran, to Qatar, all of these areas that Israel has bombed and occupied and is trying to take over more and more. But no, we're concerned about Gaza, this tiny piece of land with a people who have no military. We need to be sure that they no longer pose a threat. Practically, the IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory it occupies to the ISF, according to an agreement they will make with the transitional authority until they are withdrawn completely from Gaza, save for a security perimeter presence that will remain until Gaza is properly secure from any resurgent terror threat. Now, this security perimeter takes out, again, the Gaza Strip is this tiny, tiny piece of land. I believe it's about the size of the city of Detroit. So any security perimeter is taking out a good amount of land. And this sounds very similar to the Armistice Green Line that was established in 1948, separating what was going to be deemed Israeli land and what was going to be Palestinian land. And that green line has just been ignored. Point 17. In the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled up aid operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. I question and highly doubt that they're going to find any areas that are terror-free. So therefore, they will be released from the obligation to proceed with, sending an aid from anywhere. Point 18. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. It's beautiful, simply beautiful. This is a red herring. This is not a religious issue. It is about colonialism, apartheid, and genocide. It is not about Muslims or Arabs wanting to kill Jews. That feeds directly into the narrative that supports Islamophobia and creates this idea that Muslims are all terrorists. 19. While Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. So, may finally be in place, once these conditions are met. It'll be finally in place, not for the actual self-determination statehood, but it'll be finally in place for a credible pathway. So basically, this is never going to happen. 20, we're finally at the end. The United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. Oh, thank you, United States, for establishing this dialogue, because the US is such a leader of peace. Throughout our existence, we've had 17 whole years where we have not been involved in any kind of military battle and wars or unnamed wars. We've been at peace for 17 years, so we have a great track record for that. So that is the 20-point plan. If you would like to learn more about Israel, Palestine, and the US, take my 6-week course. Will be offered again in January 2026. Details will be below. Bye.